Welcome gamers! Today we're going to take a look at Operation Wolf 3. This was a classic arcade light gun game developed by East Technology and published by Taito back in 1994. And so, this was the third installment in the Operation Wolf series. And while all three games in the series had a militarized theme, this one was drastically different in the sense that developers had made use of digitized graphics for both the representation of characters and the backdrops in this game. And so this game was developed back during an era when game developers were looking for more creative ways to incorporate better aspects of realism into game development. And so this was really about as good as it got. While the graphics shown here probably look pretty cheesy by today's standards, believe it or not, this was actually state-of-the-art for the time. And so Operation Wolf 3 was actually just one of many classic arcade games that made use of digitized graphics during that era. In fact, there were many other notable titles from that time, including Terminator 2 Arcade, Street Fighter the Movie Arcade, and Konami's classic Lethal Enforcer series, which was extremely popular. In fact, Operation Wolf 3 was not the first game Taito had released that featured the use of digitized graphics. In fact, just a year prior, in 1993, Taito released another classic arcade light gun game called Under Fire, and it had a very similar theme to this game and to Konami's Lethal Enforcers. So, one thing to note is that Operation Wolf 3's storyline has absolutely no relationship at all to the previous titles in the series. In fact, it's just completely different. In Operation Wolf 3, players take on the role of one of two special agents, codenamed Queen Bee and Hornet, who've been sent to take down the evil organization known as Skull, who's been attempting to develop nuclear weapons in a bid to destroy the world. Now, for the gameplay, well, it's pretty fast-paced. You have these terrorists that pop out everywhere, from behind doors, cars, crates, etc. And then, of course, you have innocents in the game that you have to avoid from hitting. And you lose points and you lose life for hitting them. And sometimes they're taken hostage, as you can see right there. And so, players have a primary and secondary attack. There are also, it's like I think the secondary is like a missile attack. It's like a multi-bomb attack, really. And in the arcade, it was like a pump-action shotgun. And the pump was your secondary, and the trigger was your primary. And so, as you can see, there's bosses in this game. Like here, we're actually fighting the first boss. This is some attack chopper. You can see that there's a focal point. It actually tells you where to hit. In this case, it's the cockpit that actually does the damage. While shooting at the rest of the aircraft will help to destroy its weapons, it actually does no damage if you shoot any other part of the ship. And there's tank battles in here, there's battles with choppers. In fact, there's an end boss that's like a mech brain with a giant spine hanging from it. It's really bizarre, which you'll see that in just a bit here. Actually, this game is not very long, per se. It takes maybe about 25 minutes from start to finish. It was not a humongous quarter eater, but the last stage of the game got pretty rough. Even with two players, it would be really difficult to actually hit all of the bad guys on the screen. Now, some objects in the game can be destroyed, such as windows, crates, barrels, certain vehicles, and often power-ups are located, hidden within those crates and barrels. And now there's something else to note about this game. There's like these mini games. It's a target shooting range, and this actually pops up several times throughout the game. And to be honest, I was actually kind of annoyed by this. Here I was just getting into the game, it was just getting good, and then you put me into this. I really could have just passed on this. In fact, I looked at the options menu to see if there was some way to shut this off. in the game itself, and doesn't look like there is. So I really didn't care for this part, but I went ahead and did it just because I had to, and it was here. So anyways, the game was a lot of fun to play, though it did get kind of repetitious at times, especially with some of the boss battles. At one point, you're battling a tank that just feels like it takes forever, a million shots to take it down. You have, multi-swarm attacks where you're actually battling insurgents on the ground and from the air. And you're going to see that right here. Any moment now, this attack chopper is going to come out. There it is. And you can see I'm fighting all the guys on the ground. And I'm using my secondary attack to help clean house. But the unfortunate part here is that the secondary attack, your missile attack, your bomb attacks, they actually hurt the innocents just as well as they hurt the bad guys. And then you've got these guys you may have noticed they have a briefcase they're running with. Well, if you shoot that briefcase, which I just did a moment ago, you get a momentary power-up of rapid fire. It's like 10 seconds or something. Here there's some rolling gun battles. Here we're fighting, here's this bunch of tanks, and then we've got this vehicle. A lot of fun to play. The next stage, it turns into more of like urban warfare. You've got, you're going through like these alleyways, you're outdoors. You've got all these buildings. There's just bad guys popping out of everywhere, and they're on opposite sides of the screen, so it gets harder to shoot them all. See, we're right here. All the terrorists are all kind of in one spot, so it's pretty easy to target them. You may have noticed that that red skull flash on the screen. That's actually just an indicator to let players know that you've been hit by enemy fire. And now as for the enemies in the game, well, some of the enemies are easier to take out than others. The ones with the bulletproof vests, they actually take multiple shots to take them out. Most of the other ones, like these ones in these green and orange suits, they're just like one shot, they're dead. These helicopters are a bit harder. Some of the helicopters and tanks just take a handful of shots. Other ones take quite a bit more. The end boss here is a giant tank. And again, it shows you where the focal point is. Pretty typical, pretty easy to aim. Although this game, it's fun, but I kind of felt like it wasn't as action-packed, it wasn't as fast-paced as, say, the Lethal Enforcer series was. I do like the theme to this game, but it was kind of short, to be honest, and it got very repetitious, and that part I really didn't like about it. But it was still fun to play. Now, another thing to note about this game is that while it's the third installment in the series, Operation Wolf 2, its predecessor, was, it actually wasn't called Operation Wolf at all. It was actually called, I'm trying to remember the name of it. I think I did a video of this, didn't I? Operation Thunderbolt. Yeah, we did do a video of this a while back. And that was actually Operation Wolf 2. It was actually called Operation Thunderbolt. It was the same thing. It had no real solid, resemblance to the original game in the series. But the previous titles, the graphics were pretty much the same. The gameplay was the same. They both had this sort of a Rambo-style running gun, military armed insurgent gameplay to them. This one was a lot different because they used all these digitized graphics. The characters aren't really coming towards you, they're actually coming out from the sides rather than coming directly at you, so this was a lot different. The explosions in this game are really cheesy, the graphics are really cheesy. But, like I said, by today's standards, people would look at this, and look at these graphics and just laugh, right? I mean, look at the new PlayStation that's coming out, the new Xbox. I mean, this was nothing, But even back during the time that this game was released, the hardware for these games was super expensive. I mean, you had to really get people to play these games and to spend money on it. start to finish in order to make your money back. It was a huge investment for arcades to purchase hardware like this. Now you can see we're outdoors again, and we got all these guys popping out of all these buildings. They kind of pop out of the framework. This starts getting harder because there's more of them. You can see, like, there's one of those guys in the bulletproof vest right there. More innocent. It's really, really easy to accidentally hit them. But this was a lot of fun to play in the arcades, especially with 2 players. But one thing I will note about this game, it is not as difficult as games like Lethal Enforcers. Lethal Enforcers was a lot harder than this, I thought. This was a lot more simplistic. Lethal Enforcers was a pretty tough game. If you hadn't played it before, there's spots where it's really easy to get hit. And right there, I just hit a civilian accidentally with my secondary. And that's one of the drawbacks to using the secondary, is that it will hit everything that crosses its path, including the innocents. And so I'm gonna go ahead and play this out to the end of the game. So we're gonna roll the credits on it. You'll see that mech brain thing that I was talking about, the end boss. I'm gonna go ahead and let this play out. We're gonna record all the way to the end of the game. Many thanks for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe to stay up to date with our latest videos. You're welcome to watch the rest of the video if you like. I'm going to go ahead and tune out, and we're going to focus on the game.